Well, welcome back to the Ohio Valley Conference Basketball Media Day. It's all wrapped up. We had great lunch, talked to all the coaches and players. We've got the Commissioner Beth DeBauche with us. And first of all, thanks for having us. You mentioned in your comments, it's just good to have it going again, right? I mean, it's so much fun to get the coaches and players and the administrators together.
It really is. There's some terrific energy in this league right now, and the fellowship is sincere. I think all we've been through over the course of the past few years with COVID and beyond has really illustrated for people how much this league means to them, and we are rowing in the same direction, and it's fun to be a part.
Stop. Okay, that was really great live video. But anyway, her mic wasn't on. I'm starting all over.
Okay.
No, it wasn't you. It was me. I just dawned on me. That's the problem with going live. I was telling you, it was just good to be back together with the players, coaches, et cetera. It's just great to have things semi back to normal.
No, it is. It's great to be back together. It's great to be back together because it is semi-normal, but it's more importantly great to be back together because there's just wonderful energy in this league right now. Our administrators, our coaches, we all seem to be really working in unison and have a vision for the future of this league. So it's fun to be a part, and it's fun to be able to share that energy with others.
The last time I saw you was in Indianapolis. Murray had a tough loss in the NCAA tournament. And at that point, it's okay, our team just got eliminated. We've lost these three other teams. We have added these new teams, but it's kind of unknown. As the spring has turned into summer, a lot of good things have just come into place, haven't they?
A lot of good things have come into place. The three new schools, Little Rock, Lindenwood, and USI, have fit right into the conference. They've added a good bit of energy, a nice level of curiosity. Why do you do things, and what's the history on that? But it's good because it makes you think through the administrative policies we've had and just their excitement to be here. And as I said earlier, the other members really cherishing this league leads to just a nice confluence of folks really wanting to push this league forward.
You were asking me a minute ago if I'm from St. Louis. So I've been out to Lindenwood a couple times to talk to the guys there. And of course, they were here today. There is a tangible energy and excitement at Lindenwood on the campus amongst the student body and all of that being a part of the Ohio Valley Conference. And I'm sure that's true at Southern Indiana and at Little Rock as well. But like I've experienced it just walking on the Lindenwood campus.
I had the good fortune to go out to Lindenwood for their first home OVC football game. And oh my heavens, what great energy, families out, folks tailgating, and a really big crowd. And to see that excitement and to see the press coverage that they've received, it really has been, it appears to me like it's really been a positive move for that institution, but they too have brought energy to us. So it goes both ways. And the three schools, very different in personality, but all contributing to the conference and that sense of renewed focus for us.
When I think about your 75th anniversary, and one of your coaches talked about it also being the 50th anniversary of Title IX, those things seem to weave together to me very strongly, maybe because of some of the historical places that some of your schools have come from, as well as the need for, what Title IX did for women's athletics. I think it's a great synergy between those two anniversaries.
Well, if you think about the Ohio Valley Conference and whether these individuals were in the league or represent schools that are in the league, but be it Teresa Phillips at Tennessee State, her influence and involvement in women's basketball, Betty Giles, who was a trailblazer at UT Martin, Diane Murphy from Tennessee Tech. The list goes on of women from a Title IX standpoint that have really been impactful to the history of the movement, but also then to the conference in some way, shape, or form. We did a session in our office just talking about the rich history of women's athletics in the OVC and tied that then into the first women's basketball team that goes way in the Olympics, that goes way beyond the OVC. And it's just been fun working on projects like that and sharing the history of this conference with our young people so they have a better understanding of all that's been accomplished and that they're part of it. As I said, they're going to write their own chapter for the OVC, and that's really fun to celebrate the history as we continue to look forward.
You mentioned, and I read the release last week, that you part of your television coverage, you're going to do some wild card things, and some leagues do that with a game here or a game there, but you guys have a limited number of games that are on the linear ESPN, and you're trying to maximize those. I think it's a great idea.
I think we'll have fun with it. It really says to the schools, we'll pay attention, play your way into this national coverage, involve your fans, make sure that it's a good show on ESPN. We are an all-in ESPN conference, so we have the coverage on ESPN, and it's been a wonderful partnership for us over the years. But linear television still matters, and it's still a platform in which to highlight some terrific stories, given new programs, the transfer portal, which is impacting institutions across the nation. It just seemed like the time was right to try this approach. Now, we may get into the season and say, you know what, we need a little bit more definition towards the end. But right now, I think it's the right place for us to try this wild card approach for all games.
You have one, I think, more year after this year here in Evansville, and this seems to have been a good partnership for both the city and for the league. Have you guys even started those kinds of conversations going forward?
So where we are is we have an option for 24 that has been supported by our athletics administration. It needs to go to the presidents for approval. It will go to the presidents in a few weeks for final approval. We will do some exploration as to what's the appropriate structure for the tournament. Is this the appropriate location based on structure? So I think the focus of the conversation will be more on bracket, access to the tournament, how many teams should we bring to the tournament, what should this look like at a neutral site event. So that work needs to go on. It needs to go on in concert with people here in Evansville. They've been such tremendous partners that as we think through the future, we want to think through our future with them to say, does this partnership make sense for the OVC, but does it also make sense for Evansville and all their groups that support this event? And I'm confident we'll reach a conclusion that's satisfactory to all parties involved.
So since you said bracket, like I'm a campaigner, I'm campaigning for all 10 teams or how many ever teams you happen to have. I just think it becomes this thing where all 10 programs, they just plan, we're all going to be there. Is that even on the table?
I don't know that we're at that stage, actually.
Get it on the stage.
The history of the OVC has always been 8 teams if we had 12 teams sponsor. With a 10-member league, which is what we are right now, it's still 8 members. We'll have to do an analysis of what makes sense from a student-athlete opportunity standpoint, but also from a competitiveness standpoint. What is the model that makes sense? If it's an all-neutral site event, it may look different than if it's a combination neutral site event, start at campus type of approach to a tournament. So it's too early to even really speculate, but I think all of these issues have to be discussed. We definitely need to see some time here in Evansville under this current format with the current configuration of schools to see the success of the event.
I know Southern Illinois Edwardsville is in the St. Louis market, and Lindenwood is in the St. Louis market, but they're both a little bit fringe, but maybe they solidify the St. Louis market for you guys a little bit. Having Southern Indiana and here in Evansville and now Little Rock, I think you've strengthened your metropolitan coverage as well for the league.
We certainly have. When you think about this league, I always thought about the OVC as community-based. We give to our communities. We hope to make good community residents and citizens, but we want to make sure that we're part of the community. We were in, with the exception of Nashville, we were in relatively smaller markets, but even in Nashville, we were part of that community. So I think the community focus is still here, knowing St. Charles, knowing Little Rock, and knowing Evansville, but we have certainly enhanced the metropolitan aspect of it. And, Edwardsville was a wonderful addition. What was it, about 12 years ago or what have you. But the additional school in that St. Louis area certainly helps our visibility there, as you can speak to.
So what's ahead? I know, where you are in your conference season and those kinds of things. What's ahead for the OVC? Do you guys dream out there and can you leak out some of the really cool plans you have?
Well, right now we have a group of presidents and chancellors that are very actively involved in this conference. They care dearly about this conference and they want to make sure that we have a very bright future. Therefore, they have been involved in a really fast, I don't know if it's appropriate to call it a strategic plan, but just to make sure that we have some really short-term but aggressive goals on behalf of this league, and they've worked actively with regard to that. We've also been involved in making sure that we're doing a better job of telling the story of the OVC. We've had a lot of success, and I think it would surprise people to know how successful we've been as a league. So to try to make sure in this 75th year but beyond that we're telling not only the history of the league, but the overall success and how it leads to our future. So it is a fun time, and it is a time of engagement by the presidents. They spend a lot of time talking about membership growth. For us, I think it's not a secret. We would like to continue to grow if it makes sense. It has to make sense. It has to be like-minded leaders and institutions to help support this conference. 10's a fine number, but we had been 12 for a number of years, so growth could be in the future for the right schools. We've also talked a great deal about competitiveness, making sure that that we are more strategic. Not that we haven't been, but even more strategic about enhancing our level of competitiveness. And then in this day and age of all the concern and focus as it should be on the Division I 21st century student athlete experience, making sure that the Ohio Valley Conference, true to its values, provides the appropriate deliverables for student athletes that will really dovetail nicely with the work of the Division I Transformation Group.
I was going to ask you about expansion. You already answered that, so I want to wrap with this. The NIL things that are going on, a lot of leagues have like one big kind of overarching agreement with somebody to help them navigate, but that has to be one of the most uppermost questions or issues you guys have to deal with is how do we enhance that opportunity for the students?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things, my answer may be surprising, I think one of the best things the conference can do is not only provide education to students, but provide education to the coaches about just opportunities that are available and share information. We can't be the catalyst to make the match. That's not our role. It's not the school's role. But if we know, if we have a platform to just be able to make sure parents and young people are educated in the recruiting decisions, we can be very helpful in that regard. And certainly there's also the compliance end of that. That seems to be much more an institutional focused responsibility. But I really think as a conference, we can gather both our resources and information to help support one another. It'll be an interesting time. There's more work to come. There's a hope by many that there's more federal involvement, so there can be a more unified approach across the nation to this whole issue of name, image, and likeness. Certainly to provide student athletes the benefits that they richly deserve, but to do so in a way that people feel good about providing those benefits to students.
And what is this governor's thing you're a part of?
So I have really quite an honor. The NCAA Board of Governors is the highest ranking body for the NCAA. It was recently reconfigured, and there are 9 voting members. There is 1 slot now for Division I commissioner, and I was selected for that role. So I'm really humbled by this opportunity, and really carry this responsibility, given especially the time we're at in intercollegiate athletics, on my shoulders, but really want to make sure I make a positive contribution and not only represent the commissioner as well, but just really are forward looking about the face of Division I athletics. So I'm excited.
So now we call her Governor Commissioner Beth DeBauche.
Or hey you.
Hey you. Appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Harry.
That's the commissioner of the Ohio Valley Conference and governor of the NCAA. I'm Harry Schroeder. Thanks for being with us today all day long live on Twitter and on YouTube as we've been covering the Ohio Valley Conference Basketball Media Day. We say goodbye to you from Evansville.